More than 5,500 female guards had reportedly served the German concentration camps. These women were at par with their male counterparts, and were characterized by ferocious sternness, steeled hearts, and capable of sheer brutality. Here is a list of such 10 wicked women. 10. Wanda Klaff. Before marriage, Klaff worked in a jam factory. When the war broke out, she got herself assigned to Stutthof and served there for a year, committing sadistic abuse on the prisoners. When the war ended in 1945, she was arrested by Polish police and sent to prison where she suffered from typhoid fever. Later, she was tried and sentenced to death for her inhumane crimes. During her trial, she is known to have stated that, "I am very intelligent and very devoted to my work in the camps. I struck at least 2 prisoners every day." Having made this statement, we can safely conclude that she was not as intelligent as she liked to believe. She was publicly hanged on July 4, 1946. 9. Dorothea Binz, also known as the Binz. Though beginning her career at the age of 15 as a maid, Binz was unwilling to die like every other old maid. She applied and was chosen as a trainee guard in 1939. Since then, she had been steadily rising in her rank from supervising camp laundry and kitchen to the bunkers where women were tortured and killed. One cannot imagine, or one does not want to imagine, the horrors committed under her command during her deputy chief wardresship at Ravensbrück and later at Buchenwald. Witnesses have testified how this unyielding woman beat, stomped, shot, whipped, and slapped the female prisoners under her charge continuously. She reportedly had a lover, an SS officer, and together they often strolled around the campgrounds laughing and amusing themselves with the sight of women being flogged. In another reported instance of her brutality, she chopped a prisoner to a bloody lump with an axe because she wasn't working hard enough. After the wars, Binz was tried and executed for her crimes on May 2, 1947. Greta Bösel. It's both ironical and, well, sad that a nurse would turn to killing. In 1939, Bösel was sent to work at the Ravensbrück concentration camp. There, she held the post of work input overseer, which meant she was among those who decided which prisoners should be immediately killed by gassing, and which ones could be sent to a small concentration camp named Uckermark, where young girls between 16 to 21 years of age were kept. Bösel was a true Nazi at heart and echoed the Nazi philosophy, "If they cannot work, let them rot." When the Soviet Red Army was approaching, the SS of Ravensbrück decided to annihilate all the prisoners, but they couldn't do away with everyone, so they fled. Greta Bösel and other camp guards, including Dorothea Binz, were captured. Following the Hamburg-Ravensbrück war crimes trial, Bösel was executed on May 3, 1945. In the above video, Bösel and Binz, among other SS guards, are being sentenced for their crimes. Interesting fact, Bösel was hanged using the same noose as Binz. Alice Orlowski. Orlowski worked as an overseer at the Nazi concentration camps. At Majdanek camp, she was regarded as one of the most brutal overseers. And no wonder, for she came up with unique torture practices like whipping prisoners across the eyes, thereby making them unfit for work, which caused them to be sent to execution. To finish off as many people as possible, she would throw little children on top of the people loaded in the trucks destined for gas chambers. But near the end of the war, her behavior surprisingly, or rather shockingly, changed. The death march from Auschwitz-Birkenau to Lowlau witnessed the changes in her, where she would often comfort the prisoners, provide water to the thirsty, and even slept alongside them on the ground. Her behavior is still open to debate. Following the end of the war, she was tried, found guilty, and sentenced to life imprisonment, but was released in 1957, having served only 10 years. However, in 1976, Orlowski was called in for a second trial, during which she died. Ilse Koch, often referred to as the Witch of Buchenwald, the Bitch of Buchenwald, or the Beast of Buchenwald, is a name that resonates with infamy. Any discussion regarding wicked women in Nazi camps would be incomplete without mentioning her. She was the wife of Karl Koch, commander of Buchenwald and later Majdanek. Known as the concentration camp murderess, Ilse was notorious for skinning the tattooed parts of prisoners' bodies after having them murdered. She kept these as souvenirs, and reportedly turned them into lampshades or book covers. It was said that she took pleasure in watching others being tortured and raped, often encouraging guards to commit such acts in her presence. In 1943, the Kochs were arrested. While her husband was found guilty and executed, Ilse was freed but later arrested by the US authorities. Following this, she served 4 years in prison and was again freed, only to be tried for the second time. In 1951, Koch was convicted of incitement to murder and committing grievous bodily harm, leading to a life imprisonment sentence. At the age of 60, she committed suicide in prison. Juana Bormann, known as Weasel or the Woman with the Dogs, was among the wicked women captured shortly after the war. She joined the SS in 1939 to, as she claimed, earn more money. Juana was abusive and sadistic by nature. Her saga of cruelty spanned across 3 concentration camps, Ravensbrück, Auschwitz, and Bergen-Belsen. She was often seen with a German shepherd by her side, ready to tear prisoners apart at her command. She frequently used the dog to torture prisoners. In March 1945, she was last posted in Bergen-Belsen. When the British Army invaded in April, they found over 10,000 corpses and 60,000 prisoners at the camp. Juana Bormann, along with her comrades, was prosecuted and convicted of murder. She was executed on the 13th of December 1945. Herta Botha, known as the sadist of Stutthof, is famous for her defiant attitude. In an interview taken 60 years after the war, she said, "Did I make a mistake? No. The mistake was that it was a concentration camp, but I had to go to it. Otherwise, I would have been put into it myself. That was my mistake." A tall, athletic woman, Botha served at the Stutthof camp near Danzig. Compared to her counterparts, her crimes were not considered as brutal, so her life was spared, and she was sentenced to 10 years of imprisonment. In that same interview, she recalled with anger how the British troops ordered the guards to bury the bodies of the prisoners they had killed, and how she was terrified of contracting typhus because the guards were not allowed to wear gloves or masks. She described how the arms and legs of the decomposed bodies came off in her hands when she tried to pick them up, and how lifting the emaciated bodies caused her back pain. At 90 years old, Herta Botha still lives. Hildegard Lachert, often referred to as Bloody Brigitte and Beast. Beginning in 1942, at the age of 22, Lachert had served at Ravensbrück, Majdanek, and Auschwitz. She was a former nurse, and in the course of her brutal career, she mothered 3 children. Following the Auschwitz trial in 1947, she was sentenced to 15 years in prison. Although she got released only 9 years later in 1956, her freedom did not last long. In 1975, she was convicted of participating in the selection process at the camps. One of the survivors testified that she was such a savage that she struck until blood showed, which gave her the nickname Bloody Brigitte. She was also accused of releasing her dog onto inmates and, therefore, was sentenced to an additional 12 years. Ruth Neudeck was a woman with a mission. When, in 1944, Neudeck came to the Ravensbrück camp as a trainee, she very quickly managed to impress her superiors by her cold-blooded brutality. A French prisoner testified having witnessed Neudeck cut the throat of an inmate with the sharp edge of her shovel. Since then, she has been notoriously famed as one of the worst female guards. Neudeck was found guilty of selecting and executing 5,000 women and children, for which she was later sentenced to death by hanging. Maria Mandel, often referred to as the Beast. Mandel was held directly responsible for the deaths of 500,000 prisoners at the notorious Auschwitz-Birkenau concentration camp. Having worked in various other camps, she had managed to impress her superiors quickly, and before long, she became the highest commandant at Auschwitz-Birkenau. She had to only report to a male commandant because, according to the Nazis, a man could never be subordinate to a woman. An intelligent woman but a vicious sadist at heart, there are reasons for her being nicknamed the Beast. She would stand at the gate, waiting for someone to look around at her. Then, she would drag them out of the line and murder them. She often selected Jews to serve as her pet until she got tired of them and sent them to be executed. Mandel is reported to have enjoyed making the selection of children to be killed. At Auschwitz, she had created the Women's Orchestra of Auschwitz, which performed during the exit and entrance of working prisoners, and also when they were sent to be executed. Mandel believed it soothed the minds of the would-be dead and made her work more efficient. Estimated to have sent 500,000 women and children to death, Mandel paid for her inhumanity on January 24, 1948. These stories of unthinkable cruelty serve as a chilling reminder of humanity's darkest hours. May we remember the victims and ensure history never repeats itself. Don't forget to subscribe for more thought-provoking content. Share this video with others to keep history alive and ensure these stories are never forgotten.